Doing a vid. Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live chat. In this chat, I'd like to talk about when governments, Western governments in particular, or even big businesses, lose their sovereignty. That is, the elected representatives of the people, the government, is no longer making the big or the key decisions. Those decisions are being made elsewhere, and the government is left to do the small change that the people at the big table aren't interested in or can't be bothered with. So, and you see this in whether it be in companies, big businesses, or in governments. And if we look at the Western governments, there's not a single senior political office holder that hasn't been chosen by or directly approved by the globalists. There's not a politician in office, and if they can't get the candidates they want to stand for election, they'll just rig the election. So that's how it is, and all Western governments now have lost all, or certainly most of their sovereignty, and certainly all their sovereignty over the big decisions, economic and migration and so on. That's all decided at the globalist cabal big table, and the governments are left with the crumbs and the bits and pieces, the pretense of marching up and down in uniforms and pretending to be important and so on. So that's how it is today. But what are the signs? How can you tell when this is happening? What are the external signs that you can see and identify that, hey, this government's losing its sovereignty? And this could be at state level, federal level, or even local level for that matter. So the local mayors of cities like Chicago and Baltimore and the like. So if you look at, say the United States Congress as an example, now any political body that has AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley and those sort of people, and I can't think of the name top of my head, the woman from the Sudan, anyone that has them in their House of Representatives or the Senate or anything, Mazie Hirono, and the list goes on. There's quite a few. Whenever you see those, then you know no body politic that is interested in governing well, governing effectively, doing a good professional job of looking out for the people, increasing living standards, of delivering good government, good management. That's no body politic or House of Representatives or any political house would have people like that. The ARC and so on would have people like that in play. They just wouldn't. It's absurd. Unemployable barmaids are being brought in to be political representatives of the people. It's beyond insane. So those are the signs. It's the sort of people that they're bringing in and being elected. And bear in mind that the party machine, in this case, say the Democrat Party machine as an example, but the Republicans aren't a whole lot better. The Democrat Party machine is approving and selecting these people. There's got to be Ilhan Omar was that other one I was thinking of. I mean, goodness me, she doesn't deserve to be in any political representation. So when you look at how they the party machines, downtown central, they're selecting and or approving these candidates, then you know that they're not serious anymore about governing the country, because they've lost the power to govern. They've surrendered that to the globalist cabal, and so they can have these people in the pretense that they're electing folks who can talk directly to the people and deal directly with the people, identify with the people, so the people can think, well, gee, AOC, she's one of us. We all aspire to being barmaids that talk gibberish and talk like 14-year-old girls and so on. So that's how that's how you can tell, and those are the indications. The second part of the how you can tell is when they stop talking about the big issues and stop talking about details of big issues. So they'll start talking in emotional headlines: racism, transgender bathrooms, and equity, and they'll start talking in vague terms that have no definition, nor they attempt to define them. and they'll endeavour to politicise things that should be independent, that should have no politicisation at all. So when you look at that, it's a constant barrage coming out of the body politic in the United States. It's nothing but strange, just twisted euphemisms, that they're constantly talking about racism and white supremacy and this sort of thing, instead of getting on with and governing the country and doing the very best they can to help the citizens and to improve the standard of living of the citizens. Instead of that, they're hell bent on some strange ideological crusade that has no terms of reference or frame of definition and that sort of thing. So that's the other side of the three things. So you notice they're sticking idiots in the body politic that normally wouldn't even get a look in. Then they're avoiding talking about the big issues, and they're instead focusing on things vague terms like, for example, racism and white supremacy and so on. That's when you know that the body politic has lost the power to make any of the important decisions. So they have to fixate over lesbian painting classes and things like that. So that's on the government side, but you also see it in business. Now there's a company that I used to do quite a lot of business with, actually, and I knew the guys, a lot of sharp guys, and they a few years ago they got a long-term government contract. I'm not really sure how, but almost overnight they suddenly started to get rid of all the sharp guys, all white guys, get rid of all the sharp guys employed there, and all the upper middle management just like that suddenly became very black and brown and very female at that upper middle level. So you knew then that the business was no longer an actual real business. They were effectively controlled by powers outside of the company, the board of directors, all black lesbians and that sort of thing. So that they weren't a serious business anymore. The people weren't qualified to be there. It was all window dressing and all very woke, very so-called progressive window dressing there as the business exists now, only as a shadow really of its former self. It no longer has to compete, no longer has to be good, no longer has to be accurate in the information it puts together. It just has to exist, and it's got that long-term government contract, so it's never going to run out of money or anything. So they're putting in there those people that really aren't capable of doing business and aren't capable of competing in the marketplace, and they're just sticking them in there as I say, window dressing. But that's at that point you know that the business, in any business, if they've got to compete in the marketplace, they have to have at least some people who know what they're doing. So as soon as they start stacking it with affirmative action this and gender quota that, then you know that they no longer have to compete, and they no longer are a sovereign business existing in the competitive commercial marketplace. So that's my take on things. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.